Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Prime People Podcast. Today, you are in for a treat, and I promise you, if you watch this episode, you are going to walk away better for it and prepare to take on the world. Today, we are going to be talking about the top mistakes real estate agents make on social media with one of the brightest minds of the industry. Now, understand that real estate is sales and marketing. Sales and marketing and social media can be applied to anything. So I do not care if you own a coffee shop, you're flipping shoes, you're in real estate, or you're Jeff Bezos. A lot of these lessons are going to be applicable to your world. And who is our guest? It's none other than Dustin Brohm. Yes, the one and only. If you'd like to line up for autographs, I would start now. Dustin Brohm has been a friend of mine for a very long time, launched the Massive Agent podcast, which is one of the most practical and tactical podcasts out there, one of the biggest in the real estate space. He has been on stage with people the likes of Gary Vaynerchuk, Tom Ferry, and I mentioned Chelsea Pites in the post earlier today. Also one of the original founders of the Industry Syndicate podcasting network. And we were there with them from the beginning, and it's been incredible to watch at how much he cares about the industry and how much he gives back. This guy's literally a practitioner, right? And this is the type of people I want to bring onto the show, are the ones that are actually in it, doing the thing. I remember Dustin back in the day, Facebook ads was what he had his black belt in. He started the Massive Agent Society, and man, there's so many people that have been impacted by this guy, and I'm honored to call him a friend. Little bit of housekeeping for everybody. This stream lives primarily on our YouTube channel, so we'd encourage everybody, if you want to get more tips and tricks like this, meet incredible people like Dustin. We've had Ryan Serhant, Scott McGilvery. These are the types of people that are pouring into our network. That is the place to find us out. Also, you encourage you to go find Dustin Brohm. He's very accessible on all the socials, the IGs, and everywhere else. Go follow his YouTube channel, because I know he's putting a lot of work into that, and we will be bringing him on in 1 minute. So really excited for this episode. Stick around, grab a notepad and a coffee, and let's have some fun. Welcome to the Prime People Podcast, where we cover all things that got us to where we are today, our team building strategies, the marketing and sales tips that we've learned through thousands of transactions, productivity tips, ways to really just hold yourself accountable to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, and all things content creation, personal development, and not to mention, we have some of the best guests on the planet. And one of the best guests on the planet right in front of you, Mr. Dustin Brohm. How are you doing today, my friend?
They're doing amazing. Best intro ever.
I had some practice, right? We've done this a couple times on different platforms, but I messaged you and I'm like, it's been too long. So I had some context, and I felt the people needed to hear it.
Thanks, dude. No, I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Think about everything I said, though. Is it sinking in, like from where you started to where you're at now, like that road and some of the things that you've actually accomplished?
Yeah, like I'm super grateful. It's crazy looking back how fast good things can happen, when you do the right things consistently. But like you, I'm ambitious. I have goals. I have stuff I'm working towards. So I'm grateful, but I'm not content. You know what I mean?
You're hungry, right? I think you just came off another stream. You're doing some coaching prior to this, and you came in guns blazing, ready to rock. I mean, that's the people I want around me, right? I want people that have that fire in their belly. So let's just jump right into it. I think getting tactical about this conversation, when I started talking about the subject to my team here and on the socials, I started getting a bunch of questions, and everybody had an opinion of this. So let's talk about the state of affairs, or the state of a union when it comes to social today, right? Or the Web 2.0, or whatever different people want to call it, to somebody that was brand new into real estate. So I'm Justin. I've never been in real estate. I just got licensed. I know I got to do this social thing. Just give me your 30,000 foot view of what you think social media is today.
Social media is by far the biggest, most effective way for us to make connections with people, or rather for them to make connections with us at scale. All the different, I don't know what the hell's in my mouth, all the different things out there, like all the different social platforms, all the tools, like Instagram has Reels, it has IGTV, it has, this, that, and the other. All those things are features. They're all tools, and every single one of them is there to help you make connections with new people, or with people that already know you. So social media it's I've never seen anything like it, and I can't imagine anything coming that would be stronger than social. Now, I understand some people use it in different ways. Maybe certain platforms, depending on who you're connected with, can be noisy or negative or full of political BS. That's fine, but if you're intentional about how you use social media and you understand how it works, and that's what we'll get in today, is what you should actually be doing. Like you can build a massive brand around yourself and your name. I mean, just a week or two ago, we saw a YouTuber, Logan Paul, fighting the greatest boxer of all time. Argued, like maybe he is, I don't know, his record's pretty great. Floyd Mayweather, right? That's because Logan Paul just started talking on YouTube years ago, and he built a brand and an audience and a following around that through being a goofball on YouTube. And then that led to him fighting Floyd Mayweather, and he made, I don't know, 20, $30 million off of that one fight. It's just crazy what can happen from just building your brand online and on social.
Man, you hit a nail on the head with that too. Because I mean, more than anything, Logan understood the language of the internet. I think the people that have excelled on different platforms, quite often they come in and they understand how to communicate on that platform. And then the algorithm, which is not some magical wizard behind a curtain, looks at them and says, oh, I know what to do with this guy. And I know how to find people that are going to like him. And then now he's got these multi-billion-dollar companies serving that person the exact consumer that they needed. So going back to the beginning, right, and saying, let's go to the topic of the conversation. What do you think one of the biggest mistakes agents make when they get in the business and they try and do all of the socials, or you're trying to roll out that brand identity? Where do you think they miss it?
Well, they miss it. You just mentioned one of them is trying to do it all. There's what's optimal and what's realistic. They're two very different things, right? Like Gary Vee has a team of 20, 30 people or something that allows him to be everywhere all the time. Okay. I don't have that, so the individual agent or loan officer, they can only do what they can realistically do. Now, I do think you should grow what is realistic and expand your capabilities of being in all these places. But you got to start with the platform that you like. Do you like Instagram? Do you understand it? Does it make sense to you? Or are you like, I do not get this. I don't even like it. If you don't get it and don't like it, you probably shouldn't start there. Probably not a good place to start. Maybe it's TikTok. Maybe you just you inherently get TikTok. You understand it at your core, but you don't really understand Facebook. Where should you start? Probably TikTok. But beyond choosing where to start and biting off more than you can chew and really diluting your message across all of them, if you're not doing it right, biggest mistake I see is agents constantly talking about real estate all the goddamn time. All the time. And it's because they don't realize the real power of social media is letting people make personal connections with you, with who you really are. Are you likable? What do you do for fun? Do you have a family? All that stuff. What do you do for a living is obviously part of that. But people want to make a connection with you. They don't want to they can't make a connection with your listing flyer that you posted on your Instagram feed. Now, can they? So, and I understand this. So if you're an agent that is constantly pushing real estate related stuff, I get it. I did all that shit too. I just realized it doesn't work. So something happens when we get our real estate license. Our DNA changes, some shift happens, and we're like, we must talk about real estate. And I understand that. Like, we're in the business of real estate, so we should talk about that. But do people really care about the interest rate that day? Do people really care about your new listing in a below average part of town that needs a new paint job? Not really. They're not really. But what will keep them coming back is you. So social media is so freaking powerful because you could do one 20-second video that is interesting or entertaining, or it's educational, or a combination, that it could reach 3 people or it could reach 3 million people. And it still took you the same 20 seconds to do it. It's so, think about that. You could take 5 minutes creating a piece of content, and then an infinite number of people could potentially see it. That doesn't happen with door knocking. That doesn't happen with cold calling, right? Those are one at a time. So think of that. Social media, when done the right way, is prospecting, but you have to start with showing who you are, like who you really are, your authentic self. Like, the stuff that you might think is boring, like the cereal you're eating before you go to bed, or a green drink that you made that looks disgusting, or you're at the gym, or I was one of my team members. I was on my coaching with my coaching group right before this, and he said one of his best pieces of content lately that people were just engaging with like crazy was he has a lake in his community, and he's in Colorado. So there's some wildfires, and this helicopter was practicing coming down to the lake, scooping up water and flying off with it. And he just recorded that, and people were coming left and right with comments. It had nothing to do with real estate, but those people are making a connection with him, and naturally they will connect who he is with what he does for a living. And if they like him, if he's likable, and there's like personal connection, then once they find out what he does for a living, it's pretty natural that they'd want to work with that person or refer that person who they have a connection with. That is how social works, not check out my new listing.
Yeah. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I got a bunch of questions in the back channel, and actually I got a pile on Instagram when I posted people. I was auditing them. I was just, what are the top mistakes you think people are making? And you're already hitting on a couple of them. And I'm curious about the one where you said, nobody cares about the listing, that needs improvement, that are just in this area. And I agree with that 100%. Why do you think it is agents come in this business and look at agents that are successful in their eyes, that are just doing that, and then replicate it? Because to me, that content speaks to maybe agents that are coming into the business. Like, if I'm going to attract a certain audience, maybe it's just other agents that are looking towards somebody who's successful. But if you're the agent looking for clients, you're talking to the wrong person, right? No seller. Literally, one of the questions I have is bragging about sales, right? How agents go there and all they talk about is their production, what they did and what they did, but they're not listening to the people that they're actually serving, or the questions that those people need answered. Again, you think it's just an industry-wide thing, and that's just, the 90% of the industry thinks that's what you need to do?
Part of it, but I mean, I think some of it's human nature as well. Like, if you don't know better, you come into a new industry, or even if you're just starting to take social media seriously for the first time, you've been successful for 20 years, living off referrals, and all of a sudden they're starting to dry up, and you're like, I should probably take advantage of this social thing. It's the same thing. You look at somebody who's maybe the number one in your market, and you look at what they do on social. And if you don't know them and don't have context, you think, okay, they are successful because they're doing this on social. Well, a lot of times, especially those that are really market leaders, they're doing social media as an afterthought, or they're hiring it out, or, that's not what got them successful. They're doing it because they feel they have to at this point. Doesn't mean they're doing it well. Doesn't mean that they're doing it the best way. They probably spend $10, $50, $100,000 a month on ads and get a crap load of leads, and they just do social. Doesn't mean they're doing it right. So just because they're a market leader and they put out content on social doesn't mean that they're a market leader because of their social media content, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fascinating conversation. A lot of market leaders aren't necessarily running profitable businesses, right? And once they stop actually selling, all of a sudden their business stops. They're not creating a brand that's bigger than just a business, right? And I think the overarching theme here is creating something that's larger than yourself, and something that has value to the public. And the only way you're going to do that is by bringing people into your world. There's a couple comments, actually. Kyle jumped in here and said, what would you say to somebody who may have issues with imposter syndrome when it comes to producing content? And I think that ties in nicely with what you just said, right? People that feel like they got to go out there and post what everybody else is posting. I have a feeling I know where you're going to go with this, but I'd love for you to answer this question.
It's a great question. And I mean, we could spend an hour talking about this. I think what comes to mind first is everybody has imposter syndrome. The more I network with high income individuals, or those that are at the top of their game in our industry or others, every single one of them has insecurities. every single one of them struggles with the same stuff. So it's kind of nice to know. But then like some of my personal story is my desire to, at the time I was struggling financially a lot. And so like my back was against the wall. I needed some damn money and I had to make something work, and content was what I thought would get me there. Um, when your desire or your will to succeed or to have something work out or to reach a certain goal outweighs any nervousness or any insecurities you have, you're just going to feel those things and do it anyways. Right. I still don't necessarily like the sound of my voice. And I've been podcasting for 3.5 years. I have 182 episodes today. I did, was it 500 or 600 straight daily episodes of my flash briefing before I put the cap on that. I put out lots of audio content, and I still don't necessarily like to hear my voice, but I just do it anyways. When you just keep doing something over and over and over, it just gets easier. It just gets easier. So with imposter syndrome, I think just accept the fact that you are harder on you than anyone else is. If you're worried about how you may come across to someone else or how you look or whatever, it doesn't mean that they'll actually feel that way. It's you for some reason are putting this story in your own head that they will think this about you. They probably won't. They probably don't care about you that much, right? I mean, that's just what it is. Like, that's not a negative thing. That's a very positive thing. They don't care that much about you. They've got their own crap. They have their own life. They have their own struggles and insecurities too. So some of it comes from a little bit of arrogance, even to where we think that everyone's going to be paying attention to us all the time. Some of it's arrogance, some of it's just not understanding or having the full perspective. So that's why I'm going through this the way that I am, is to give some perspective. But one of the best things I ever did, Justin, and where we met actually was through Snapchat back in the day, 4, 5, 6 years ago. At the time, I hated being on video. I felt like I had to read a script and rehearse before doing a video. Yeah. Now I just show up. But getting from point A to point B, what it took was me getting on Snapchat, and 10 seconds at a time, I would just put myself out there and show what I was doing. Hey, I'm running this Facebook ad. Here's why. Hey, here's how I'm using Canva. I went to see this house. Here's the sign going in the front yard. I just screwed up on this. Oh, hey, we just had our first child, like that kind of stuff. Over time, you just get comfortable with it like anything else. We weren't born knowing how to walk. We weren't born knowing how to drive. You weren't born knowing how to write a purchase contract. You learn that stuff. And learning how to be comfortable in front of the camera or doing content it's no different.
Man, you hit on so many points there, right? And I think people just get paralyzed by fear.
Yes.
We were discussing it this morning in a mastermind group that I'm part of. And we were talking about how fear is not non-present in anybody. I know MMA fighters that I know very well that when they fight, they're scared, right? And courage is proceeding forward, acknowledging that the fear is there and that you're going to put in the reps. But what you just gave is a tangible tip, and everybody grab your pens and write this down. Using stories and ephemeral content that disappears is the first easiest way to get started with video, especially video that faces you, because you'll be talking to your camera and you'll feel very awkward at the beginning. But as you do it, you start realizing that there are people that are on the other side, and they start messaging you, and you're like, oh, wait, I'm actually talking to people, not my own face in the camera. And then you start seeing these unlocks. But to encourage those people, Dustin, if you don't do it, what's the alternative? Like what is, I guess I'll ask you the positive side of things. What has the impact been of you turning around and stepping into that and doing the audio content and the video content, even though it wasn't the most comfortable thing in the world?
Great question. So many things have happened. There's so much upside that's happened that at the beginning, I had no idea was even possible, because sometimes you can only see the next step or what you think is the next step. You don't really know what can come after that. So I'll go into that in a second. But, just to answer, I guess, real quick, the negative part is if you don't do this stuff, if you're not showing up in the news feed of your friends, your family, your network, your leads, your community. If you're not showing up on the screen of their phone, someone else is. That's just a fact. Like if you're not showing up there, what another agent in the area is guaranteed.
It's probably
So
me.
probably you, right?
Just kidding.
No, you're not. Because you're doing the stuff. Um, that's cool, and there's so much room for so many people to win in this space. But if you're not doing it, somebody else will be. If you don't show up on somebody's home screen, not necessarily home screen, but if you don't show up in their news feed, you don't exist to them because they're seeing other agents, they're seeing other professionals they're becoming top of mind. And so you have to combat that by being there as often as possible. So some of the things that have happened to me, the doors that have opened, I'll go back to when I started the Massive Agent podcast 3.5 years ago. So up to that point, I had built somewhat of a following, I guess you could call it. It always sounds so douchey when I say I'm a following, but you know what I mean.
I know the vibe.
Yeah. Somewhat of a following and an audience of other real estate agents first through Snapchat, then through a Facebook group called the Snap Pack. And I'm a marketer. I love all the stuff about marketing. And so I always wanted to do a podcast. I just didn't understand how it would fit in. I just saw that it could be a great additional way to reach agents and get the message out that I was trying to get out. And I'm like, cool, maybe I'll get some sponsors that'll pay me to do my show. That was what I thought would happen. And then I also thought maybe I can get some referrals if new agents in other areas get to know me as the Salt Lake City agent. Well, both of those happened. But what happened too was when you're a show host, you're building credibility for yourself in the eyes of others. If you feel like you struggle with credibility, one of the best things you could do is start a show, be a show host. Just like the radio, just like whoever the joker is, at 5 p.m. every day on a local radio station, they're like a local celebrity. Why? I mean, they could be in their underwear in their basement. We don't know, but they're seen as a celebrity because people listen to them and they're the show host. And so people naturally are like, oh, like I respect that person. Otherwise I wouldn't be listening. Right. So you can build that for yourself. By building credibility for myself, I realized that other agents wanted to work with me, or be part of what I was building or be mentored by me. So I launched a coaching program. Then I started building a nationwide, not a sales team, but a team of other agents that I have agents in like 30 states now, who I'm a coach and a mentor to, and they're partners of mine. That's been really cool. That's been something I'm very excited about. Didn't know it was possible before, but that's possible because of my podcast, because they wouldn't know who I was or wouldn't have listened to me enough to feel that they wanted to partner with me. You know what I mean? That's been great. Speaking at conferences, getting paid to speak and do trainings for other brokerages or mortgage companies. Being asked to be on other podcasts like this one, like it's super, super cool. And then the people you meet along the way, like other real estate industry influencers, like a lot of them are my friends, where before I'd look up like Grant Wise. Before I really knew Grant Wise personally, and I consider him a friend and a wizard when it comes to Facebook advertising and sales too. I was like, oh, that's Grant Wise. And then just by like going to conferences and meeting him and then collaborating with him on some stuff and having him on my show and then me going on his show, like we become friends. And so that's really cool because you can level up who you spend time with, because your environment is huge. And you know this, the 5 people you spend the most time with, you're the byproduct of them. If you spend your time with 5 broke people, you're the 6th. Right. But if you spend your time with 6 successful people, go-getters, successful entrepreneurs, wealthy people, you're the 6th. So by starting the show and being able to become friends or at least, equals with a lot of these industry influencers, I mean, imagine what that does for, how I feel about myself and just what I'm around and, what I'm encouraged to do and what I see them doing. Like it's just, there's so many great things that can happen when you just put yourself out there.
It's fascinating because I've known you as long as I have, and I've watched that journey. And that's why, like, I actually thoughtfully threw in Chelsea's name in the Facebook post I did today next to Tom Ferry and Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yes.
Because to me, they're all on the same level. Chelsea's book is right there. She's a human being.
Chelsea's
so is Gary.
legit,
yeah. Right? Like she's practical and tactical. And what's very interesting to me is Gary Vaynerchuk said this last week. Like he realized the unlock when he went to the White House and met Obama. And he's like, oh, like he's just another guy. Like he didn't feel like all of a sudden, he wasn't worthy of being there, because you realize these people, they may have more experience, different connections and everything else, but they leveled up by getting around good people. And it's hilarious you say this today, because this morning in Glenn Lundy's room, I ended up talking to Grant Cardone this morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I chopped it up with Grant Cardone about fear and failure. Like, how does that happen? I don't know Grant. I have no business having a conversation with him, but I talked to him. Right. And that happened by being in proximity to people that genuinely want the best for you. Right. And I do think that's another point I want to bring up. I think people really miss the mark on social media when they have a scarcity mindset and they're so worried about what other people are doing and the business they're getting and the following they're getting. And they just don't share. Versus, I think of you, I think of Jazz, I think of Shannon, I think of all the people that I know on the back end. And when I figure something out, I DM them to you guys and I'm just like, hey, like I just figured this out, or this is happening, or you should know this person. Even if I don't have a direct benefit in it, the community moves forward. And then the community reaches back and brings people forward. So tell me a story about somebody in your life that maybe that synergy happened to where they brought you onto a next phase or another level that you didn't even realize was there.
Okay. So what comes to mind, this isn't directly answering your question. It comes to my mind. And I think it's part of the overall, theme we were just talking about. So because of my podcast, because of the audience I have and again, it sounds douchey saying about myself, the influence that I have, I've been approached by a couple companies that are launching that wanted me as an advisor and are offering me equity in the company. Like that wouldn't have happened otherwise. If I was just some random person, that wouldn't have happened. So like now, like there's real legit business opportunities that are coming just because along the way, I've built a brand and an audience, and it's super cool. But how did you word your question exactly? I didn't answer it.
I'm going to scrap my question for a second because I think it's a phenomenal topic, right? Like it was that, right? It's, you getting better at something exposed you to new opportunities. And sometimes it's somebody that's going to reach back and take you on a journey and be like, oh, this is how you get into speaking engagements, or this is how you do Facebook advertising, or Grant Wise will show you, oh, come into this person and meet this person. They give you an opportunity, but you're talking about legitimate equity, business opportunities that are coming because you built a skill set, right? Because you put in the work that now you can speak on a topic. And going back to Kyle's comment about imposter syndrome, I think the only time you have to worry about imposter syndrome is when you don't know what you're talking about, but you can show up and talk on stage because you know what you're talking about. So give the audience a little bit of clarity on that and how to not, misrepresent yourself on being an expert in something that you're not.
Yeah. See, I think this part's really easy because, and I love the way you put that too, Justin. You're so right. If you don't really know what you're talking about, or maybe you're brand new to it and you lack confidence that you do know what you're talking about, yeah, you're going to have some imposter syndrome, and rightfully so. If you're going out there saying I'm an expert on investing in stocks and you've been doing it for 2 months, yeah, you that imposter syndrome is karma saying, shut the hell up. You don't really know what you're talking about. You can share your experience up to that point, but you're not an expert. Now, I like the marketing stuff. I love it. It interests me. I really enjoy it. And so I can talk about it forever. I don't need notes really, when I'm talking about this stuff, because it's just something that I am genuinely interested in and could talk about till I'm blue in the face. So when there's something that you generally are interested in, very, very well, you're confident in your knowledge of it. That could be the local market. It could be marketing. It could be soccer. It could be dentistry. I don't know, or soap making, whatever it is. If you feel like you're an expert in it and you enjoy talking, you enjoy talking about it, you're never gonna, you just don't have anything to worry about. Like, so the imposter syndrome then is just, do I, as you start to level up and you're hitting new highs for yourself and you're busting through and creating new floors, right? New expectations. If you've never been there before, yeah, like you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I was here and now I'm here. That's normal. Imposter syndrome, sure, but if you still know your stuff, it's easy for you to just continue and push forward and do it, especially if you enjoy it and like it. Then it's just, getting used to being in that new spot, that, that new level that you just attained. Because once you attain a new level, once you're there for a minute, it becomes normal. Like, I don't know about you, you reach certain levels of your career or certain income levels or certain accomplishments. And when you get there, it's like, wow, amazing. And then it's like, okay, this is normal. What's next? The imposter syndrome just goes away. But you have to focus in on what you like, what you enjoy, what you're good at, what you actually do know about and can speak authoritatively about. Because if not, then yeah, you probably deserve some imposter syndrome. I'm not saying don't jump in and chime in, but if you're pretending that you're an expert on something, people can feel that too. You know what I mean? They can feel when you're kind of full of crap.
Oh, you can smell it. And then you're DMing your friend Dustin on the back channel being like, is this guy live for real? Like, that happens in real life. So everybody be aware. And it's funny. I like a lot of times on the back channels, people will message people and say, hey, have you heard of this person? Have you heard of this person? Are they legit? And the community does take care of itself. Lindsay Gowan, shout out to Lindsay. 100%. I couldn't agree more, Dustin. People want connection. They want to get that by showing who you truly are. And another tip I throw into that conversation is if you're not an expert at something, tell people you're not an expert at something, right? I can associate with somebody who's learning something, right? Like if you're like, man, what does this look like getting into these new venture? And how do I, understand, is this a good partnership or is it not? And what's the equity stake and what's the out? And how do I fulfill my obligation? Like if you're going through that journey, Dustin, I want to see that journey with you so that if I get to that point and I get to walk through it, you've shared that with me and now you're in a different position. It goes full circle to what I said about the community. It's a very interesting dynamic where if you just pretend like you know everything you're talking about and you don't, you're going to get to that level with people that know, and then they're going to hear that tonality in your voice, the fact that you don't know what you're talking about, and you're going to say something and you're going to lose their trust. Mm-hmm. And I think that is one of the biggest mistakes people make is they don't value the people that they're communicating with to the point where they're actually worried about losing their trust, and they regurgitate the same content that everybody else is putting out. And they're not valuing the interaction. And in this day and age, again, I'd love your opinion on this from a marketing perspective. Attention is the most valuable asset out there. The reason we do everything that we do is so that when we're ready to execute and sell something, the attention and the trust is built out. And they're like, oh no, Justin values me enough that if he's showing me this awesome property, I should probably look at it. And then maybe they know somebody who knows it. And that's where the value comes from. But how do you build trust with your audience? Because you've built an incredible group of people. I'm one of them. I listen to your podcast. Like, what thoughtfully have you done from a creative standpoint or creator standpoint to honor the audience and that trust that they've given you?
I think just being myself, and in all the, with all the warts, like I lose my train of thought a lot, but now on my show, I call it a squirrel moment, or if I get distracted and just totally go off on another tangent, I just call it a squirrel moment. And so I'll have people who DM me on Instagram, the squirrel emoji sometimes. Like it's just become a thing. In fact, I should probably make some squirrel t-shirts. I definitely need squirrel merch, Justin. I got to do that. That's on my to-do list. But
dude, if you use StreamYard, you can create a squirrel graphic and then you can literally hit a logo and let it run across the screen in the middle of the conversation. How sick would that be?
I'm gonna have to edit that in on my YouTube videos and stuff. But like I speak the way that I speak normally. I'm wearing a t-shirt and a hat, for God's sakes, and gym shorts. Like I'm just me. And first off, it makes it so much easier when you're not trying to be someone you're not, and you don't feel like you have to take your mask off and at the end of the day, because it's exhausting. Like being yourself is hard enough, being yourself out in the world is hard enough, but trying to be someone else you're not, it just doesn't make good business sense, I don't think. So I am authentically myself. What that means is I also repel a lot of people, I'm sure, who maybe don't like my personality, or don't like when I swear, or don't like when I lose my train of thought, or I say, I don't know, like, fine. You're going to repel people, but you're repelling the wrong people, the people that wouldn't be a good fit for you anyways. This is back to the personal connection thing. When you do videos, you're letting people decide if they like you or not. And if they like you, they want to see more of you. And if then they'll see more of you, the connection gets deeper. If they decide that you're not likable, or maybe your personalities aren't a fit, maybe as an agent, I'm too laid back and they're much more analytical, like they're an engineer, we're not a good fit. So they're just naturally going to just go over here. Like I'm just turning them off. Cool. But here's the beauty of that, because you may be thinking that's a negative. That's not a negative. You, through being yourself in your content and being yourself online, you are filtering who wants to work with you. You're filtering the business that comes to you, or the friends that come your way. And so by being myself, I also have people who, this never happened until I started doing content online, but they're like, hey, I watched some of your videos, we want to buy a house and you're our guy. The first time that happened, it blew my mind. I was like, wait, so, okay, cool. So you want to interview me and then how many others? Like, that's what I was thinking. And they're like, no, like, we were ready to buy a house. Like, how do we do this? And I'm like, holy crap, they've already made their mind up. And that's when it hit me. They've made their mind up because they watched some of my videos. They read an article. They went to my social media and they decided that they want to work with me for whatever reason. We were a good fit. So when you do content, you are attracting the right people and repelling the wrong people. The beauty of that is how much more fun would your career be? How much more fun would your days and your life be if you're working with friends, if you're working with like-minded people that like you, that already know who you are? So then, if you're just all polished on video and then they show up and you're wearing flip-flops and you swear and you burp, they're going to be like, who the hell is that guy? But if they already understand who you are, you're just like, that's who they hired, and then your referrals go through the roof as well, because you're working with friends. You're working with people that are a good fit for you. And so you're going to get more referrals from them. And those referrals are going to be people that fit with you as well. Business gets really, really fun when you attract the right people and you repel the wrong people.
Man, you could literally go down the niche of saying, I'm only going to work with Detroit Tigers fans and probably find a niche and be very successful and very, very
totally
happy doing that. Interesting conversation. Sorry, my mic just popped up for some reason. The joys of technology. The other thing I was going to note too, just talking about branding and everything, is like on the fly, right? We're doing this podcast. Here's how the brain of somebody that is in this world thinks. I'm looking at the background and I missed. I actually made a mistake, and I have a paddleboard in Grand Bend Beach because I love that photo. That doesn't speak to my audience, right? If I switch it to this, which is building a business or something like this, that's probably going to speak to this audience a little bit more. So I think being thoughtful about the world and the environment that you want to live in and bringing in branding pieces around you to support that is going to attract the right people. And to me, Dustin, there's a lot of value in dequalifying somebody as much as there's value in qualifying somebody. So I think those were great points. We're going to jump into rapid fire Q&A, and then I'm going to get you out of here. Couple things before we do that though, because tangibly, I want to give people the ability to go out and execute after this, right? So now they've gone through the point of understanding that communication on social media is essential. It's not even a debate anymore, right? The attention is there. The leads are converting. I do a live stream at a listing and I'm getting 6 to 12 leads. That's more than the MLS. So not an option. It's too many platforms.
Right.
How do they, I know you said this earlier, you pick the one that you like, but when they've picked a platform, and this goes to the very first question that we're going to address, how do they deal with the inconsistency of posting? Like, how would you encourage somebody on developing a cadence or, working out that muscle?
First off, be somewhat flexible and understand that sometimes stuff just gets in the way. That's top priority or whatever. That's fine. But ideally, you do start to work towards a consistent cadence. So if you, something that I've done, so with my podcast, I've done 182 straight episodes every single Thursday morning for 3.5 years. Every single Thursday morning. I have not missed it once. There was one time that it's scheduled a little bit late because I did, that whole AM PM thing, screwed up the AM PM thing. So it posted a little late that day, but it was still on time. I can do that because I made it a top priority. I just decided that this is going to happen every Thursday morning into perpetuity. I don't know. I put no end date on it. I'm going to do a podcast. And so it's a non-negotiable. It's one of my non-negotiables every week. If you then make Instagram stories, for 3 minutes a day as a non-negotiable, and posting on Facebook twice, every other day or whatever, make them non-negotiables. Like, those just must be done. And that has to happen in here. You have to make the decision and commit to it and be kind of crazy about it to make it happen. But I'm like, there's some days where I don't do Instagram stories. There's some days where sometimes I'll go a week and a half or 2 weeks without posting on Instagram or posting on Facebook. And it's just, okay, then you just get right back on the horse. Consistency is absolutely key. It's absolutely magical. However, it's not the only thing that matters. Because if you consistently every day post crap that nobody wants, that's doing a lot of damage now, isn't it? You're teaching the algorithms to not show your stuff to anybody because it sucks. So if you're consistently bad, consistently putting out stuff nobody cares about, or with horrible lighting and terrible audio, or just shaky, that's not good either. So consistency is very, very important. It's not the only thing that's important. So the quality of stuff you put out there matters too. So if you decide that that's 3 times a week, you're going to post something really thoughtful on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, cool. Just roll with it. If it's good stuff, and you consistently put out good stuff. Consistent doesn't necessarily mean every day, but if you do it 3 times a week or a couple times a month and you do that consistently, that's what matters. So, I think that's the answer. Is, first off, you've got to decide what is important to you, make them non-negotiables, and then practice. Practice, continually improve. And then be flexible, because you may decide you're going in a certain direction and you're like, it doesn't work, or I don't like it. It doesn't feel right. I'm going to pivot and do this instead, or maybe this different platform makes more sense for the message I'm putting out. Be flexible as well. Because if you're so rigid and you're not open to the feedback that the data and the analytics are giving you, and by the way, if you're not getting feedback, you're getting feedback. No feedback is feedback.
That's amazing.
You've got to be flexible on what's happening once you post stuff.
Well, it's like you have a plan or you don't have a plan. Maybe your plan is just not having a plan, right? It's the same kind of concept that you touched on. Another note, I think that doing content well over a long period of time affords you the ability to back off. And the interesting thing about podcasting, YouTube, and some different ephemeral or long form platforms are they're working when you're sleeping. Right? You're literally, I'm looking at my boy, Dan Parker. What up, Dustin and Justin? Always good seeing
Dan,
you. Content Dan. To the best in the game. I mean, Dan's a monster, right? He understands everybody go follow his YouTube channel. He understands the power of what that looks like. And it's making you money while you sleep and giving you the ability to execute on a higher level. Very, very tangible. And I think from quality of content, from the production side, my advice to anybody out there would be, in this order, it's audio because they have to hear you. Then it's lighting, and then it's upgrading the actual gear. 2 of my agents were in my office today talking about tripods and DSLRs and cameras. I'm like, use your phone. Get really good at your phone. And if you don't want to pay an editor, get really good at editing on the fly with your iPhone. A lot of top, like I was in a room with some top YouTube creators, millions and millions and millions of views and followers. One guy had 1 billion views, and they were saying iPhone. They're saying that it's going away from that highly curated, overproduced look to more real. They're saying more real. And this is, you're hearing this from people that are on the inside, that this is what's coming. So you can equip yourself right now to be prepared for that. And you don't have to hire a $10,000 photographer to do it. You can do it on the fly, and you can find a lot of success. Clint
1000%.
Peters. Clint Peters, he had a TikTok that popped. And you know what his TikTok was? Go follow Clint Peters. Is at his kid's baseball game, T-ball. And they cranked the T-ball. And like 20 kids started running towards the ball. And they played the mine. As all the kids were running over. And it popped off. And that's a great example of how real your content needs to be. But consistency, yeah, I think there's a balance. I think Dustin answered that very, very well. So let's blast through a couple more of these questions and we will get you out of here, my friend. I definitely appreciate you so much.
Of course.
Kyle had posted, if you can go back to your first year in real estate, what advice would you give yourself?
Chill. You know, like, don't be so damn hard on yourself to achieve all your goals today. I had a big mental breakthrough this last week at this retreat that I went to. I realized I was putting so much pressure on myself to have everything happen right away. And I kind of accepted that I'd get there. Like, it was happening. So like this weight was just released off my shoulders. In the beginning, because of my financial situation, which was not good, like couldn't pay the bills, that added a lot of pressure. Right. So going back to my first year, here's something super practical. I would have waited to go full time in real estate until I had 6 to 12 months of expenses saved up.
Very practical.
Absolutely. For so many different reasons too. I mean, when you just talk to your clients differently and you advise them differently, when you are in a good spot or when you feel secure and you feel like you're good, whether this closes this week or 3 months from now, I'm good. Let's just do what works for you. You're just a better advisor, you know? So that's a big deal.
Dude, another reason to create other income streams, right? Not one of my deals has to close for me to be okay. And I'll tell my clients, I'm going to be honest and direct with you because I can be, and I don't need your file to close, fortunately, unfortunately. But that's what every client wants, is they want that direct communication. I think that's a very tactical piece of advice. So anybody watching this, especially if you're new, 6 months at least of income, so you're ready to rock. Tanaz is a new agent. She's awesome. Met her on Clubhouse, and she's been coming into a lot of the rooms and just educating herself on so many different things. And she said from a previous comment, the cooperation over competition always, and it is so true. Her question is, does it matter how many followers you have in order to start doing lives? I'm assuming she means IGs, primarily regarding brand new agents entering the industry and trying to get leverage. Would you encourage somebody to do lives even if they don't have a huge following?
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot happening there too. When you're doing a live, you're getting out of your comfort zone. You're practicing. That something that I did in the beginning of my career, which if you look at direct ROI, like how many sales did it lead to, wasn't the best ROI. I sold one, maybe 2 homes from a year and a half of door knocking.
Wow.
Including the winter. Like I would go out when it was snowing like a bastard because people would take pity on me and talk to me more. But I sold 1 or 2 homes from that. But when I look back, if you're only looking at the ROI of like sales, I was right after that. And I hated doing that, but I got more comfortable. I got more comfortable talking to people and getting out of my comfort zone. And I wasn't nervous and I didn't feel awkward or weird. And so I look back and I was like, even if I sold nothing, I'm a different person now, which then helped me for the next phase of my career where I had more confidence and everything. So doing lives on social, same concept. So whether there's 1 or 2 people listening or 1,000, do them to exercise that muscle. And then, if you're doing interesting stuff, here's what's great about social media content. Let's say you have 100 followers, 100 people connected with you. Let's say it's on Instagram, and you start doing some lives that are interesting. And it's not about real estate, but it's about the community. You're highlighting what cool is happening, or the high school football game, or the farmer's market, or hey, did you know that this food truck goes here, here, and here? And did you know that this museum has this new thing? Like if you just start showing what's cool and interesting to you, other people are going to be interested in the same stuff. The right people, okay? If they have the same interest as you, those are people you want to work with. So if you're live, you may have someone that's like, oh my gosh, I got to tag my friend Jenny in this. And now Jenny is watching your stuff. Okay. And so you start to expand your audience by doing interesting stuff that people actually want to see. That's why it's so important to not post about real estate all the time, because people outside of like a certain narrow point in their life, they don't care. They have no need for a market update. They have no need to see that you're live at your boring new listing from 11 to 1. Like, they don't care, but they do care what's happening in their community. They do want to know which new businesses or restaurants are opening up, what's happening, so that's how you can really build an audience of people that keep coming back, is by doing interesting stuff. And live is a great tool to do that.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's much more targeted, right? Because of the audience that's authentic, and you not got to know who you're serving when you're doing the lives and providing them information. And again, just ask yourself, what questions do they have that you can answer? I see guys like Clint, Tanaz, I see Dan. These are all people that are curious about our opinions on what's happening in tech. And I'm sure we could chop it up with all of them and get their opinions and create a better world. Again, it goes back to the collaboration. So we had a bunch of questions, actually. I asked on Instagram, Matt Kelly, I asked everybody, what do you think the top mistakes are people make on social? Matt Kelly said inconsistency in sales-driven content.
1,000%. 1,000%. Yes. Sales-driven content is another way of saying you're putting stuff out that you want people to see, not necessarily stuff that they want to see. That right there, if you guys can just change the way you look at content, change the way you look at posting, and ask yourself one question. Am I posting this because I want people to see it? Or am I posting it because I think they'll actually want to see it? If you make that one little adjustment in your content, everything changes for the better. Because far too many, and this is not just a real estate agent thing, but any salesperson, anyone who's in business trying to promote whatever their thing is, most of them push out. They treat the social media platforms like billboards. Like, hey, everybody, look at this. I want you to see that we have this sale. I want you to see this. Does the audience really give a crap?
I can tell you, because the next 3 questions are all around exactly what you just said. You literally answered the next 3 questions in that answer. Nice. Tanaz had written me, and she said they spam, sold, and just listed instead of variety and building trust and familiarity. They brag. This was, I forget who sent the next one, but they brag about sales. No one cares how to sell. We care about how your client feels. So Building a Story Brand is a phenomenal book that talks about that. A phenomenal graphic designer, Theo, on our team, indicated that they use it as inventory management. There's no relationship building, and there's an inconsistency of branding in their content. And I actually use myself as an example. And because of the way that we're built as an organization, I realized, Justin Conoco and Prime Real Estate are 2 entities. I have 26 people that are working here in different capacities. They all have their own brands. So if Justin Conoco is doing handstands on Prime Brokerage's Instagram account, probably not the right place for that. I can do it on mine because I love health and fitness and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You and I jam on that all the time. But understanding and creating a delineation and being like, what does my audience actually care about, and not being so fancy. It's not about me. It's about the bigger picture, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Some stuff that you just mentioned, like bragging about sales, or this is what drives me out of my mind. I understand why agents do it, but I don't think they understand what's happening when they do. Is, hey, new listing, we just sold this sold in 48 hours, sold in 10 hours with 32 offers. The more agents do that, remember, everyone's saying the same crap. So the more you put that out there, you're training the seller that they don't need you.
100%.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. You're like, look, we think that sellers are somehow stupid and that they won't understand that that's market conditions. It's not your marketing. It's not like you're some wizard. Now if it was a horrible, if it's a buyer's market and you're doing something like that for a seller, that's interesting. Like,
yeah, for sure.
That's worth bragging about and talking about, because you're doing something very special and unique that other sellers need to know, for sure. But that's not the case. When that's happening everywhere to everybody, you're just training sellers that they don't need you. Not smart. They understand it's market conditions and not you being the wizard.
That you're looking at it as a consumer, not a real estate agent, which is not how people think about content. They think about content as a real estate agent, but switch it up and think of it like a consumer, right?
Because they never ask the question, is this something that I want people to see, or is this something that they actually would want to see?
Yeah, and shout out to our boy, Matthew Weber. I love this conversation. Nice job, Phil. I waited to post that because his content is what his people want to see. I like hanging with him. I like seeing his stories. I mentioned it to him yesterday. I'm like, he's giving me him. and he's connecting and he's growing really quickly because of it. So,
Absolutely.
Dustin, I think you absolutely crushed this conversation. I always love catching up with you. If I can offer you something and our platform, where am I sending all of these lovely people and all the people that are going to see this in perpetuity, the millions of views, because I'm going to grow this channel. Everybody hit subscribe, to go find Dustin. Where's Dustin living these days, and how can they connect with you?
Thank you, sir. MassiveAgentPodcast.com, Massive Agent Podcast. Just go listen to the podcast. Industry Syndicate. Go check out our other shows like Prime People and other great shows for the industry. And then I'm easy to find on social at Massive Agent. Shoot me a DM if something that I said today pissed you off or that you liked or whatever. Let's hash it out in the DMs. Love to talk to you.
You're one of the real ones, man. Keep growing. I'm super excited to see your journey. Go get some rest, because I know you've just been plowing through these today, and we'll have the audience catch up with you soon.
Thanks, brother.
Awesome.